Hey everyone, greetings to you from Tipperary to wherever in the world you might be. Welcome to the Right Coach podcast with myself, Carl.J. Ashley. Good afternoon, good evening, wherever in the world you might be from Tipperary, and welcome to the August 2026 Right Coach podcast with the one and only Emelie Hill-Dittmer. How are you doing?
I'm good. Thank you very much. And
Did
I
I
hope you're
pronounce your
well
name
too,
okay?
Carl. Yes, yes. Absolutely fine. Thank you.
So why won't you tell us who are you and what do you do?
So I am a therapeutic writing facilitator, educator, based in Sweden, southern corner of Sweden, Scania, as well as an author of two Swedish guidebooks in therapeutic writing, and one of them will soon have a English sister. So my Swedish guidebook, Skriv för att läka, is coming out in the Word in September the 24th, and the title is Write to Heal, the healing power of writing.
Very good.
I have a journalistic background, but my main passion is to teach expressive writing methods, in particular trauma-sensitive writing methods, to as many people as possible. That's a mission in life, so to say.
And you're not just an author, you have a conference organized as well to help bring together people that are interested in healing through writing, which is something close to my own heart.
That's correct. We are gathering for the second time, actually, this September,
Uh-huh.
18th to the 20th in Stockholm. This is the second edition of a international conference called Write for Life, and a dream come true in many ways. I have been secretly of getting people together, people who are passionate about the power of the written word internationally. I lived in England for many years and came back to Sweden 9 years ago, and felt quite lonely and isolated in my profession. And I started to think about how can I gather people, and yeah, 9 years on, here we are now. Last year, we gathered in Scania at a community college called Sundsgården, where I hold some of my courses and workshops and training programs. And we were 70 people then, from Portugal, Finland, Norway, Spain, England, and I hope we will be as many as 100 this year in Stockholm. So I'm very much looking forward to it.
Fantastic. So I'm just going to do a little screen share there and pull up the webpage for the conference. I don't know if you can see that now. Writeforlifeic.com.
Yes,
There you
that's
are
us.
there. And there's your
There we are.
international colleagues.
That's correct. We have Matuszek from the US, Charmaine Pollard, Julia McGuinness, and Megan Hayes from the UK, and Masha Mosolevskaya from Spain, also the founder of Barcelona Journaling Festival, as well as two ladies from Sweden, Ida Sundén and Elin Malmberg, who trained with me 2 years ago and who are now publishing their own works, and they're going to be there to present their book, and it's going to be yeah, 2 days full of healing, connection, togetherness, really sharing. We're writing alone, but we are together, and that's a very powerful thing. Writing can be a very lonely thing, especially if you are working through traumatic events, trying to make sense out of your past. So this weekend is about togetherness more than anything, I'd say, and to make connections.
Is there any, I'm thinking of my Irish and American based clients. that I work with around the world. Is there any kind of live streaming, or is there any videos, or is there any way they can access the speakers, or do they have to come to Stockholm to be in attendance?
That's a good question. We're actually looking into this as we speak. Well, if that is possible, possibly not this year, but in the future, we aim for people to be able to access, yeah, the knowledge, the inspiration, and the togetherness on a link. But I don't think it's going to be possible this year. Um, yeah, ask me again in a few weeks, though. Miracles do happen. Yeah.
Fantastic, fantastic. So, what was your inspiration and what sort of drove you to want to create the conference and to bring healing through writing to a wider audience?
So I guess we're gonna have to go back in time. I am a trauma survivor. I grew up in a family constellation that was quite volatile, experiencing physical as well as psychological abuse. There was also war trauma in the family. My grandparents survived the Holocaust. So for me, writing has always been helpful, and for me a way to break that loneliness with myself. So the question I couldn't ask close relatives, I would simply write down in my journal. So my journal became my first great friend. I grew up in the countryside in southern Sweden, so quite isolated, really.
Right?
So it began there, and I kind of knew that this, I think, is my path. I was quite lucky in that sense that I found something early on, but it was also a way for me to survive, actually, quite an unbearable childhood in many ways.
Sorry to hear that.
Thank you,
Yeah.
Carl.
But presumably there was also schnapps and alcohol and other things that you could do to distract yourself. And I know addictions and suffering from the sort of, I guess the broad umbrella term is sort of addictions and depression, but it doesn't really go into, say, living a life of feeling disenfranchised, feeling like you don't belong, feeling like there's something wrong, feeling like you don't really quite fit in with what's going on around you. And that's what we call the Black Sheep Club, right?
Hmm.
So you're not really sure what's going on, but you know that you're not really like the other people you see around you. And alcohol seems to be a great way of medicating, or drugs that are available, whether it's chocolate, sex, caffeine, alcohol, drugs, whatever. There's that tendency to find something to medicate with, to cope with the emotional disconnection. I think it was it Gabor Mate was saying that the addiction, whatever the thing is you're addicted to, isn't the problem. It's the underlying need that isn't being met
Mm.
that we then get from the substance that we're medicating with, you know?
Completely. Yeah, I 100% hear you and agree. Um, so I suppose I was lucky to find writing. It was my gift, so to say, and a way out of misery. But obviously, I've been, yeah, on quite destructive path um, alongside my writing journey, so to say. And there's been absolute periods where I haven't been writing because I've been so occupied. I've been traveling quite a lot. I knew I wanted to escape this little village where I grew up. We were a Polish family in a very Swedish setting. So I guess I always felt like a bit of an outsider with unusual surname, and I knew I wanted to be out in the bigger world, in a bigger context. So I started traveling. I was on my own, quite vulnerable young girl with this desire to write, to share a story, and possibly help others too. I think I perhaps knew that already then, but I didn't quite know how.
Right.
I had to, yeah, crash and burn in order to, yeah,
Are
dare
you
to do that.
are you bilingual or a native English speaker, or did you pick English up after sort of Polish and Swedish? Because your English is such a high standard, you can't really tell, like you don't struggle with it.
Oh, thank you. Thank you very much. I spent nearly 15 years in the UK, and I'm lucky to have grown up in Sweden, where you studied English at quite a young age. So I was 10 years old or so when I was, yeah, learning English. Plus, a lot of the television here in Sweden is in English,
Right.
as well as radio. Yeah. Unfortunately, I can't speak Polish, which is kind of strange. But
Uczesze polskiego, eh?
well, I wouldn't really know. I only know some basic words. The language is, familiar. It feels like, a favorite song that's coming on the radio. It feels like my melody, but I can't, unfortunately, have a discussion in Polish. So that in itself was for me an isolation, not to be a part of a language. It was like a secret club where German as well as Polish were spoken. But I think the idea was that my brother and we were gonna conquer, the Swedish culture and the language in order to succeed and not get mixed up with other languages, which is a shame because it's so enriching. I think it's the most beautiful thing you can give a child is another culture and another language. It's enriching.
Yeah, yeah. There was kids in. I studied German in school, did French in school. I was a straight A student in English, French, and German, and just always had an aptitude for languages. But I wouldn't extend that aptitude to picking up the Nordic languages and nor Irish. We have quite a large community of Polish people here in Ireland that came over in the middle of the noughties. There was a lot of work available here and the economy was booming and a lot of integration. Now you'll see Irish and Polish families, you know.
Mm. Yeah, well, we're travelers, or the Poles are everywhere. In London, I met a lot of Polish people, and I love going to the Polish club. There is such thing. There's several Polish clubs actually, but I enjoy the food very much. I'm a foodie, so I go there craving my grandmother's flavors. Yeah, she was an amazing chef. Mm,
Beautiful.
mm,
So you're straddling this kind of divide of Polish, Swedish, English. You have a passion for writing. You see the therapeutic aspects of healing through writing, and you've created an international conference to bring that to a wider audience. Tell me. Have you got any favorite books, or are there any books that you'd recommend to our audience, and why? Is there anything that stands out for you? Any books that help you change your life?
Well, first of all, I like to,
Apart from The Power of the Written Word by Carl Ashley, I might say.
of course, I just finished a book and it was an excellent read. Um, but a book that has helped me a lot on my journey is also a guidebook in expressive writing. It's called Writing to Awaken by Mark Matusek, who is well an important teacher of mine. I've
He's one of the
studied with
speakers at
him.
your conference as well, right?
Exactly, I connected with him. Was something deep that was waking up inside of me when I heard him first speak on YouTube. I stumbled across his work through some Google search, and his work is based around profound existential questions that you look at. Without ducking, so to say, you go straight into the question and you carry on writing, no matter what emotions that occur. You push yourself through those questions. That's quite tough work, really, but you have a lot to gain. And obviously, if you do this in a setting with a group and with Mark, which I had the pleasure to experience twice now, live in the US, in Seattle, as well as in New York or Rhinebeck, at the
Okay.
Omega Institute for Holistic Studies. You might be familiar with it. I've learned an awful lot about yeah, myself and my story, and how you can, by facing your truth, transform your story, and yeah, um, obviously take a new direction from there. It is a true awakening, so to say. And that book you shouldn't rush through, as my advice. You should take it slowly. My students, who I recommend the book to, obviously, and sometimes Mark today guest lecture for us, they say you need to read the book over a period of a year or two, and I think that's wise. You to take it step by step, uh,
Hmm.
depending on, I guess, your experience. But um, personally, my teaching method is quite slow and gentle, unlike Mark Matuszek. Maybe that's why I'm interested in him so much, because we have two very different approaches, but I think the combination of the two can be very helpful. So in my teaching, I blend many different types of therapeutic writing styles or approaches, because I like my students to learn how broad the method is, how many ways there is to look into yourself. And I think Mark's approach is excellent, but there's also obviously many other fine teachers in the field. One of them is also Charmaine Pollard, who's also coming to the Write for Life conference. It's written a book called Writing for Resilience. It's quite a new book,
Okay.
um, and that's also very, very interesting, but obviously different way of working with expressive writing. Um, she's a
So
poetry therapist, so she works a lot with poetry healing, and ways of working through existential question through poetry.
let me reframe the question slightly. So, are there any books outside of the context of healing through writing that made a big impact on you and that you'd recommend to a wider audience, we'll say, and that had an impact on you either growing up or in development?
No, thank you for reminding me of the question. I'm starting to talk about expressive writing methods now. One book that has meant an awful lot to me. It's actually a Swedish book by a Swedish, oh, actually an English psychotherapist, an author based here in Sweden. Her name is Patricia Tudor Sandahl. And the book title, if I was to translate it from Swedish, is A Given Path. Basically, the main question in the book is, well, how the given path is already within you. It's
Okay.
about listening inwards, and it's also a deeply personal book, the author's own journey to dare to listen within. And that book literally fell out of my bookshelf only days after my mom had passed away, and that was her favorite book.
Oh,
She'd given the book to me, but I'd never read it, and I felt like it was like she was
Mum
talking to
was
me, saying,
basically reminding you to
"Yeah,
have a look here.
yeah." And this was a huge crisis for me. I was extremely close to my mom, who was a victim of domestic abuse throughout life. She was a very, very loving woman who had a great purpose, but didn't dare to explore all those
What's Mum's
paths, let's
name?
say. And her name was Diana.
Diana.
Yeah. and she loved this particular book. And yeah, it took many years for me to open it, but she literally said, "It's time to read, Emily." And actually, Patricia Tudor Sandahl has written the foreword to my guidebook, Right to Heal.
Ah,
So
very good.
it became a significant book for me in order to take myself seriously, my path seriously, that I already knew that writing was what I needed to kind of follow through. But I had, for various reasons, just kind of stopped. My creativity died. I was, in a quite sad situation, not clinically depressed, but I was diagnosed with a complex PTSD diagnosis, and had started suffering panic attacks, sudden panic attacks, and I felt quite sick without knowing what actually was going on inside of me. But I think my soul was so thirsty. I was just so starved, and yeah, bit by bit, I came back to writing, and that was also the beginning of how can I say, the journey that led me back to Sweden after many years abroad. So yeah,
So
I would say those two books are my most significant books. Yeah.
I wanna just jump in and say, so you might be ideally positioned to help and support any women that may have been through sort of domestic abuse, experienced panic attacks, and had a difficult time with sort of grief and bereavement and stuff as well through your own sort of pain and your own journey. Yeah.
Yeah, it fills me with great purpose to do so. That has helped me to heal. We are healing each other, so to say. It doesn't go one way. We're doing this together. So um, I will speak for everyone I have met during soon 12, 13 years doing this work, that we have helped each other in different ways doing the work together. I am a witness to all these people's journeys, and I'm also sharing, obviously, bits of my own experience. I believe in personal teaching without becoming too intimate, but my own experience is essential, because who am I to go in and teach this method without being vulnerable myself? I think it's very important. Actually, I train other people to teach expressive writing today, and one important message I have for them is to dare to be vulnerable. And that's we have a lot to gain to do so.
And you're currently writing your own book, right, to coincide with publishing that at the launch of the conference. Tell us more about your own book.
So my own memoir is actually not coming out until next year. So Right to Heal, my guidebook, is the first book that is being launched in English. So my memoir, which I started writing in England all those years ago, is finally being published. So the title, if I was to translate it, is Borderlands. It's about growing up in a borderline between crazy and sane. I grew up with parents who suffered from serious mental health issues,
Right.
also as a consequence of war trauma. And Borderland also because of the reason that I've never really felt that I belong, nor in Sweden or in England or in any other country. I sort of always felt like I'm in between two places. So it's a big story. It's not just about generational trauma. It's bringing in a lot of existential questions. Where is home? Um, so to say.
Home is where the heart is.
Mm, yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So a lot of the work I do with the right coach clients around the world, mostly America, Ireland, and the UK. Um, it's about providing a safe and secure and supportive environment where people feel heard. And I'm currently getting the website redeveloped because I don't think the first incarnation of the Right Coach website really communicated how I do what I do. The emphasis was kind of on soft skills like editing and proofreading. And whilst I do offer those things, that's not at the core of the work we do as people that enable and facilitate this healing through writing process, where it's very much about having a sort of an emotional connection, people that are bringing up their past and what happened in it to then be able to express it, to then be able to let it go, to then be able to move forward is literally an enlightenment process. It's becoming
Mm,
lighter and it's being able to move forward. So whilst there's a lot of emphasis on some unpleasant and some tragic and some disturbing things, I've heard some horrific things that humans have done to other humans, if I'm honest. But there's still something positive. There's still a lightness. There's still a brilliance in that. And it's hugely fulfilling as well to be able to see someone become a better version of themselves through what they're letting go of, what they're bringing up, and what they're essentially expressing, which was previously unexpressed or suppressed or repressed. So, wrapping up on your own favorite books, was there anything else outside of a kind of academic sort of context or anything outside of a sort of a philosophical context? Was there any fiction book that you enjoyed or anything that got your attention in that sense?
yeah, I'm thinking about that now, that I have been deep diving in expressive writing guidebooks for the last 12, 13 years, or self-biographical works, or books that are working through, an existential theme or questions. And my answer is quite boring, actually. I can't actually mention any other books that are fictional at the moment. I'm a bit of a nerd when it comes to expressive
Well,
writing.
you don't need to put a judgment on it.
Yeah, but as a child, I loved libraries and I was reading, obviously, as well as writing. I think the library saved my life too. They say libraries that is a place for lonely children, and I completely agree with that, because those are my most fond childhood
Yeah, I can
memories.
relate to that. And it's a
Mm,
safe space, it's a quiet
yeah,
space,
exactly,
and there's
exactly,
nobody really hassling you.
exactly, exactly. Um,
So the refuge of the library, you then learn to alchemize into having a refuge within you and a safe,
mm.
peaceful space within you that you can take wherever you go.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. And I often return to those libraries. I used to go there with my Polish grandmother, who was a huge fan of reading, and we would have competitions. I remember we were reading the Anne of Green Gables series, and we
Okay.
would have, yeah, a competition like who can read these
What was
books.
Granny's
Was-
name?
Her name was Zenobia, or
Enobi.
Sonia was her nickname. Yeah.
Sorry?
Sonia was her
Sonia
nickname.
was her nickname.
Swedish
Yeah.
version of Zenobia was easier for people to
Zenobia.
pronounce.
Sonia. Yeah.
Mm, yeah.
I used to play Scrabble with my gran. I used to go and visit her in Crumpsall in Manchester, and we would always be doing word puzzles or word games or Scrabble. And as a child, you just think you're playing a game, right? But she's being clever because she's teaching you words. So
Mm,
I might think I don't really have anything here. I've got rubbish letters, and she put something like Vex, VEX. And I never
Mm.
heard of that word. What does that mean? So
Yeah.
it's like you're learning how to score these words in the Scrabble game, but it's incidental learning as well.
Mm.
Yeah.
That's that's beautiful. So that was a gift as well, from her to um, you, her grandchild. Yeah, I was very fond of my grandmother. She's with me every day in the work. The work I do, and I feel I have her blessing in many ways.
Beautiful,
Uh,
yeah.
I was 26 when she passed away, and we never really got the chance to speak about the horrific experiences she had at well, she was held captive for the entire war period, so 5 years. But the last year, she was held captive at Ravensbrück concentration camp, which was the largest Nazi camp for women. So she was one of the very few who survived that um, horrific camp. About 150,000 women marched into Ravensbrück, and between 30,000 to 15,000 women survived. So she was a very, very strong woman, obviously,
Yes.
and an inspiration. And I spent a lot of time with her as a child, and I think that was one of the reasons why maybe I am where I am today. She was whispering, I think words of wisdom, and gave me a lot of strength and courage to believe in myself, although I was extremely shy and insecure as a child and growing up. But I think, yeah, she's given me a huge gift, I think, that I carry with me.
You're obviously presumably familiar with Viktor Frankl and
Hmm.
his
Yeah.
work and man's search for
Yes.
meaning
Yes.
and the way that the human mind can still somehow find a glimmer of light and hope and positivity even in the most horrific of
Yes.
circumstances. So Sonia must have been a remarkable woman indeed.
Mm. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. She was in many ways. My grandfather also survived. Well, the war, obviously, and a camp in Siberia, and nearly died, but managed to escape and took himself, via Finland to Sweden. So they were both
Wow.
very, very inspirational people. He had a wound, he was shot in the throat. So he literally crossed over to the other side, and yeah, came back. So they have been very important people for me. And although they survived horrendous trauma, they were also very, very loving. And I always felt safe with them.
Maybe because of the horrific
Mhm.
trauma they experienced, they were very loving.
Very much so. I think for them, our us grandchildren were this huge gift. They were so joyful. Obviously, they made it, and the bloodline continues, so to say. Yeah.
Amazing. Yeah, I couldn't imagine a Siberian camp.
No, nor can
Um,
I.
I got a hold of a book. I think it was The Gulag Archipelago by Solzhenitsyn, but I didn't read it all. I think I got about a third of the way through it before
Mm,
just like wading through deep
mm,
undergrowth and a bit too heavy
mm,
and abandoned thus. But some of the descriptions of this kind of life in these kind of places, it was very, very tough, no
mm,
doubt whatsoever. And as a descendant and as someone who is here now to speak your truth
yeah.
and talk about the grandfather that was shot in the throat, you see
Mm,
the connection with the throat and
yeah.
expression, right?
Absolutely.
Was he still able to speak? Could you hear him? Was he able to
Yes,
talk?
yes. No, he was able to speak. He never actually learned Swedish very well. He they had quite a big Polish community actually, or they actively found or searched for yeah, Polish survivors in the area. And he didn't really feel the need to learn Swedish because my grandmother was, you know, very talented when it came to picking up languages. She spoke several, and he was a quiet man though. Yeah, he could get awfully angry, but he was a quiet man, and I remember with fondness the nicknames and some expression in Swedish that he would yeah, share with me.
So I'm gonna slightly take you away and ask you, what has been your favorite trip abroad and why?
Okay. So I guess I will have to say the US in 2024, actually going to Rhinebeck to spend a week at the Omega Holistic Center
So what
was
part of America is that, Emily?
this is New York State, basically. Rhinebeck is located outside New York, 90 kilometers up the Hudson River. It's
East
really, really,
Coast.
yeah, really beautiful, really, really beautiful woods. And it kind of sounds a bit bizarre, but it also felt very kind of homely, like Sweden, you know, lakes, woods, but huge, huge trees. And I felt so surrounded, like somebody was holding me there, like all those great big trees and this loving community there. Beautiful vegetarian food, and spending a week there focusing on me and my writing, being with one of my favorite teachers, Mark, and some really beautiful people in my group, supporting one another. Yeah, it's a trip I look back on with great fondness. Actually, yeah,
Very good.
I did truly for myself. Yeah,
Would you go back?
absolutely. I dream about Rhinebeck all the time. Yeah, yeah.
Very good.
Mm.
So for advice for would-be writers, I get a lot of people maybe in our sort of right coach community, they might be writing, they might be journaling, they might be thinking about writing their own book, or they may be at the point where they've written a book and they don't know whether to self-publish or look for a publishing company. What's your two penneth on sort of the pros and cons of self-publishing? What would you potentially recommend to any would-be writers who are asking the question, well, is it better to self-publish or find a publishing company?
Yeah, interesting question because I wrestled a lot with this myself because it was very hard for me to find a publisher in Sweden because I had written a guidebook that was quite unusual. I wasn't a psychologist or a psychotherapist. I had written a book on personal growth, trauma recovery, and healing through writing. I was an ordinary you know, journalist, having grown up in this Swedish countryside with this unusual experience, and I had witnessed all these people healing through writing. So I sent my manuscript to quite a few big publishers and was turned down. In the end, I my manuscript landed with a lady who runs a hybrid publishing house. I'm not sure if you're familiar with that, but it's something in between
Okay,
self-publishing and a traditional publisher. So you invest in your own book, so to say. You pay for the service, but you have actually a person behind you who promotes your work in the end of the day, who's backing you up. So you still belong to a stable of other writers. In my case, writers who are slightly unusual, but they all have a subject of expertise within, alternative therapies,
Okay.
or they have experienced something unusual. They have something to share with the world. So for me, it was like finding the perfect home for my book. I still have the control of my book. I have invested in it, and then obviously I gain the money back when I sell it. So that's how my book came about. Having said that, I think self-publishing is an excellent way to go because the book is then truly yours. You're in control. It's hard work, obviously. You have to spend much more time than you think to promote yourself and there to promote yourself. And that's the hard bit, I think, especially
Yeah.
if you're a trauma survivor, believing in yourself, taking a step out, that can be quite scary. You need to be aware of those things because it's not so easy or comfortable, actually. But it gets easier. You just have to start. Because it can be soul destroying to wait for the right publisher and wait. Is it just one big waiting game? I am not so interested at all in that. I used to have a big dream to be published for this huge publisher in Sweden, but I'm very happy to have found my little publishing house, who now has actually a traditional branch. So
Sounds like you
my
got lucky,
yeah,
or
I got
was it
lucky. I
more
got
than
lucky.
luck?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I did. But if I was to, yeah, give advice, I would say go for self-publishing because you're in control. You don't have, um, all these other voices telling you things, how to do things. You can take the decisions that are right for you. Everything from, the graphic design, how you want your book to actually look and feel. And you're in control. And I think that's a lot. I mean, a lot of uh, sorry, I'm trying to find the right word. Trauma recovery is about taking control in the end of the day. So I think that's an excellent way of connecting, all those dots. Like, yeah,
Yeah, I think
fully go out in the big world and
I
showing.
found
Yeah.
self-publishing was naturally lending itself to having control over the content and the pricing. But then I know one of my clients was a lady, and she was kind of looked down upon by, say, publishing companies. If you're not famous and they can't see a way to make money from your
Mm,
book, then you're a kind of a nobody to them.
yeah.
And you don't really need to bring that on yourself. Like, I just knew that nobody had heard of me and nobody would be interested in my story. And I didn't have time to accrue the rejection slips, although dealing with rejection's been a huge part of my life for many, many years. But I chose self-publishing. But I figured that if I had a really good book, then someone would come along and offer to publish for me if it was good enough. Yeah.
Mm, yeah.
So it's like, I think memoir is traditionally sort of frowned upon unless you're, someone really famous who's been in the media and got publicity and what have you. So as individuals that are on a healing journey and then using and alchemizing our own pain and suffering to then be of service to others and help them navigate a path through their sort of journey of healing and overcoming narcissistic abuse, overcoming parental alienation, overcoming this multi-generational family trauma that manifests in all these different ways, whether it's addictions and what have you. Like, that's not really going to be of interest to them because they want controversy. They don't want something safe and secure and wholesome and good. They
Mm,
want something edgy and risque and controversial because that's the kind of shit that sells, is
yeah.
the impression I get. You've obviously got exceptions to that rule. Um, Yeah. So thank you. That's a very interesting thing to find a hybrid
Hmm.
sort of.
Yeah.
Yeah, you struck gold there, I'd say.
Yeah, I think so. I'm very happy I made that investment, and yeah, I was obviously, yeah, also lucky, because it's a jungle out there. But you have to really think, I think, carefully, and also look after yourself, because your story is, in my opinion, holy. Yeah, you put your heart and soul into it. So yeah, not don't just give it away to perhaps the wrong hands. Yeah.
So I feel like the the best question I've saved to last, and you've touched on it a bit already. What has been your biggest challenge in life, or what has been the hardest lesson that you've had to learn? What's been the biggest challenge that you've had to overcome as part of your own journey, both as a speaker and a writer?
Mm. Wow, it's a big question that requires a long answer. I think the biggest challenge for me is to believe in my own voice, and I mean the physical voice. Speaking to you now, for example, it's actually quite. It's been a nerve-wracking thing to listen to my own voice, to believe
Ah,
in it, because I was obviously, bullied, both, at school, but partly also in my own home, like, and I witnessed an awful lot of bullying. So I was pretty much a mute child, like in my, early school years. I hardly spoke. I was reading and writing.
like
Um,
this. See,
pretty,
see no
yeah,
evil, hear no evil.
yeah,
Don't say
yeah,
anything, don't do
yeah,
anything. I'm sorry
yeah.
to hear that.
Yeah, and in my mid-teens, I left home, and I knew I needed to, and it was the best thing that could happen. But again, it was horrific, starting, this new life in this new town, starting a new school. I kind of disappeared too, because I thought it would give me a chance to finally speak up, but that's been the hardest part, actually, to speak up. I knew I was longing so desperately to do it, but it was terribly hard. I would rather be quiet, than speaking up. So it's taken me, I would say, 35 good years to do so. I'm 46 today. It's getting easier, but it's that's been the hardest. Writing is one thing, but to speak up, has been the hardest. And I'm thinking about my grandfather and his wound in his throat, and the
Yes.
connection there is quite interesting for me,
Yeah.
because I think there's a definite connection,
The
actually,
throat
to be
chakra being about
silenced.
expression
Yeah,
and
yeah.
yeah.
Because I literally felt that there was this lump in my throat, like I've grown up with a lump in my throat, and it's finally, being released. So, because why would anybody be interested in what I have to say? I need to be really good and really kind of funny, exciting, and I spent an awful long time on building confidence, preparing, scripts and presentation. But I have now understood that, gosh, I don't need to do that. I just need to be myself,
Right.
because it's enough what is
The huge
within.
lesson, isn't it?
It's a huge lesson. It's a huge lesson.
And
But yeah.
all you ever needed was
Hmm.
to be yourself.
Exactly.
And all the
Exactly.
time that we're
Mm.
like the way I describe it is your personality becomes the sum of your control dramas, your defense
Yes.
mechanisms, your survival adaptations. And once you start to look at who
Mm.
am I, what am I, personal identity, you can decide what to let go of or what serves you and what is actually a part of who you are. And
Hmm.
unless you've been through that quite sort of vulnerable and honest process of studying and looking at
Mm.
your identity, who you've become, who you
Mm.
are, and who you're going to be if indeed you want to recreate and reinvent yourself. It's a
Mm.
really important thing to understand that just you being you is
Mm.
enough. But when we're
Yes.
young, we're quite impressionable and we're never really told or shown how to be authentic. We're given role models, we're given ideals, and we're maybe
Mm.
trying to live up to those things for the benefit of feeling loved, feeling seen, feeling heard.
Mm.
And so we develop a need for approval, right?
Exactly.
But it's
Exactly.
only once you manage to learn to let go of that need for approval that you can tap into genuine authenticity. And
Yes.
I'm not saying that authenticity means going around pissing people off, although I can quite honestly be quite good at that, I've been
Mm.
told. But it's losing that people pleasing tendency and being a recovering people pleaser. You realize if you're not concerned with what people think and gaining their approval, you're only really being connected with the right people. Your authenticity becomes your calling card or your currency. And so you
Yes.
might lose a lot of friends or you might lose a lot of people,
Mm.
acquaintances, family members, but you'll be surrounded by the right people.
Yeah. Exactly. And I have found my new soul family in these last, I would say, yeah, 13, 15 years or so. The right people have come in, and I lost an awful lot of people along the way. And it's been terrible. Like I've been shedding a lot of tears and, yeah, removing all these layers. But I feel at peace. I wrote a little piece actually the other day on Instagram about that
Do you want to read it
journey.
to us?
Oh gosh, I think I turned off my phone now, so I don't have it.
That's very
But please,
polite of
please
you.
follow
Thank you.
me on Instagram if you want. To
Yeah,
everyone,
okay.
just
So for
yeah.
anyone that's interested in connecting with you, I'm just going to share your website. It's
Mm-hmm.
in Swedish and English, right?
Yes, there's a Swedish account and there's a more recent English account.
Do you see that?
That's my website. Yes, Hill-Dittmer.
Expressive skrivande. That's
Yeah.
Swedish for expressive writing, maybe.
Yes, that's correct. That's correct.
And so hillditmer.com with two
Mhm.
L's and two T's will get to you.
Yep, that's correct.
And your
That's right to heal.
Instagram and your
Yeah,
social media
that's right.
is going to be down at the bottom, right? There we go.
There we go.
Instagram. There you go.
There it is. That's my Swedish account, and then there's an English one as well called Hill-Dittmer. So yes, please follow me there,
I will.
and I'd love to
Whilst
connect with you.
whilst we're at it.
Yeah. Mm.
Yeah, fantastic. So I guess all that remains is for me to thank you for your time, for coming to join us and to answer some questions. And I would absolutely love to take you up on your kind invitation and be a part of one of your future conferences and stepping into that out of your comfort zone aspect of speaking publicly about the power
Mm.
of the written word, the power of healing through writing. And yeah, we'll see where it goes and what the future holds. It's quite exciting, right?
It is. It is. And I would love to see you in Sweden. And I would also love to come to Ireland. It's a beautiful, or Ireland, Ireland. It's a beautiful country. So I'm really
Yes,
glad for the connection, Carl.
you're welcome. And thanks so much again for your time today. Cheers,
Thank
Emily.
you. Thank you so much. And take care.
So thanks for watching. If you have any questions or you'd like to be a guest, feel free to get in touch.